Something sitting in your kitchen drawer right now sparked an absolute religious panic in 1611, when the English clergy officially declared the dinner fork a deeply offensive, unholy insult to God's natural fingers. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are talking about a guy who was basically the world's first travel vlogger in the early 1600s, roughly 4 centuries before YouTube even existed. His name was Thomas Coryat, an Elizabethan courtier who did the unthinkable in 1608. Imagine leaving your comfortable, safe life in England to walk across the wilds of Europe, and then literally walking all the way to the Mughal court in India. Why? Because of an obsessive, burning curiosity and an insatiable hunger for a good story. Thomas was a man who pushed the absolute limits of human endurance just so he could tell people about it. But we aren't going to start at the beginning of his life. Oh no. We are going to bounce around his wildest achievements, from introducing bizarre new dining utensils to the English court, to sweet-talking powerful emperors in languages he barely knew. This is the incredible, chaotic, and entirely true story of the Odcombian Legastretcher. Get ready for a mind-bending journey through 17th century records, bizarre cultural clashes, and a pair of shoes so famous they became a holy relic. Let's dive in. Let's start with a modern staple, the dinner fork. During his 1608 Italian expedition, Coryat saw Italians using metal prongs to eat meat. When he brought this invention back to England, the clergy were furious, claiming in 1611 that using a fork was an absolute insult to God's natural fingers. After that initial 1608 European trek, Coryat returned home to the tiny village of Odcombe. He had walked exactly 1,975 miles in a single pair of leather shoes. To celebrate this insane 5-month durability, those battered shoes were hung inside the local church, swinging there until at least 1708. But Europe wasn't enough. In 1615, Coryat managed to secure an audience with the mighty Mughal Emperor Jahangir in India. How? By delivering a flawless, impassioned speech entirely in Persian. He spent 14 months meticulously studying the language just to bypass the emperor's heavily armed guards and court translators. Long before it rained constantly in London, Englishmen just got wet. In 1611, Coryat formally described a strange Italian device called an umbrella in his writings. He noted that they cost exactly 1 ducat, about 150 modern dollars, and shielded users from the sun. People thought it was hilariously unnecessary. Coryat's writings were scandalous for the era. In August 1608, he documented a highly unusual encounter with a famous Venetian courtesan named Margherita Emiliana. He claimed he only visited her to observe her lavish 3,000 ducat apartment, vigorously defending his chastity in print to avoid massive backlash from the English church. Walking to India meant crossing incredibly dangerous territory. In 1614, while traversing the treacherous mountains of Afghanistan, Coryat realized his European clothes made him a walking target. To survive the 400-mile stretch to Lahore, he completely disguised himself as a ragged beggar, tricking ruthless highwaymen for nearly 3 weeks. What is truly staggering is his travel budget. Coryat claimed that during his grueling multi-year trek beginning in 1612, he spent just 2 pennies a day on food and lodging. Adjusted for historical inflation, that's roughly $1.50 in today's currency, surviving mostly on water, stale bread, and sheer stubbornness. This guy was a pioneer of exotic experiences. In September 1614, he became the first recorded Englishman to ever ride an elephant. He was so utterly thrilled by the towering 10-foot beast in Ajmer that he commissioned an elaborate sketch of himself riding it to send back to his mother. No publisher wanted his massive, chaotic travelogue. So in 1611, Coryat crowdfunded and self-published Coryat's Crudities. The book was a colossal 800 pages long and featured 60 sarcastic introductory poems written by his royal court buddies, acting as the 17th century equivalent of ironic YouTube comment sections roasting the creator. His obsessive academic flexes were legendary. While wandering through northern India in 1615, he got into a theological debate with a Hindu priest. Instead of using a local dialect, Coryat spontaneously delivered a fiery, hour-long speech in classical ancient Greek, leaving the entire crowd of 50 locals completely baffled. Before he became a global wanderer, Coryat had a humiliating day job. Between 1607 and 1610, he served as an unofficial court jester for Prince Henry. He was a highly educated Oxford dropout. Yet royals paid him an annual stipend of £20 just to mercilessly mock his quirky behavior. Coryat absolutely loved historical roleplay. While sailing the eastern Mediterranean in 1612, he forced his ship to dock near the ancient ruins of Troy. His traveling companion playfully drew a sword and dubbed him the First English Knight of Troy, a fake title Coryat proudly demanded people use for months. Even extreme walkers need a break. While crossing the treacherous Mount Cenis Pass in the Alps in late 1608, the snow was too deep for his famous shoes. He paid local porters half a crown to literally carry him 14 miles in a wooden chair strapped to two long poles. Coryat was determined to see biblical history firsthand. In April 1614, he joined a massive merchant caravan and traveled across the Middle East to explore the ancient ruins of Babylon. He became one of the first modern Westerners to meticulously document the shattered remains of the legendary Mesopotamian Empire. Trouble always found him. While exploring the Jewish ghetto of Venice in July 1608, Coryat foolishly initiated a massive religious debate with a prominent local rabbi. A crowd of 40 angry onlookers quickly formed. An Englishman only escaped being thrown into the canals because the English ambassador's gondola passed by. His uninvited arrival in India created diplomatic headaches. When Coryat showed up at the Mughal court in 1616, the official English ambassador, Sir Thomas Coryat, was absolutely mortified. Coryat was trying to project elite imperial power, and here was a dusty, broke English backpacker undermining his multi-million-pound trade negotiations. Tragically, we are missing his most incredible discoveries. Coryat kept meticulous daily journals of his eastern travels, but following his sudden death in 1617, the majority of his final notebooks documenting his deep exploration of the Indian interior were completely lost to history, leaving scholars crying over hundreds of pages of irreplaceable missing cultural data. He knew how to put on a show. While staying in Agra in 1616, a local woman mocked the English for being stingy. Enraged by this insult to his nation, Coryat stood on a balcony and hurled 100 silver rupees into the street below, sparking a massive, chaotic scramble. Let's quantify this man's sheer physical output. When he departed on his final Asian expedition in October 1612, he walked an estimated 3,500 miles over the course of 3 years. That is the exact equivalent of walking from New York City to Los Angeles, but over unforgiving 17th century desert terrain. Ironically, it wasn't the walking that killed him. Arriving in the coastal city of Surat in December 1617, Coryat was exhausted and suffering from dysentery. English merchants offered him a large barrel of sack, a sweet, heavy Spanish wine. He enthusiastically drank far too much and died a few days later. What a genuinely fascinating and utterly bizarre life. Thomas Coryat wasn't a conqueror, he wasn't a wealthy merchant, and he wasn't a powerful diplomat. He was just a deeply curious man with an unbreakable spirit and a frankly ridiculous tolerance for walking. His overarching story proves that the ultimate human drive isn't always about money or power. Sometimes, it is simply the overwhelming desire to see what lies just over the next horizon and to come back with a story that nobody else can tell. He turned the act of walking into a historical legacy, dragging a highly skeptical England, kicking and screaming into a wider, more connected world. From dodging ruthless bandits in the mountains of Afghanistan to forcing his skeptical royal friends to use dinner forks, Coryat left an indelible, quirky mark on global history. He was the original backpacker, enduring devastating disease, extreme poverty, and endless mockery, all for the sheer thrill of raw discovery. Think about him the next time you find yourself complaining about a long, uncomfortable layover at the airport. He literally walked thousands of treacherous miles just so we could talk about him over 4 centuries later, long after his journey ended in 1617. If you learned something new today about the legendary Odcombian leg stretcher, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below letting me know which of his wild adventures surprised you the most. Did you know about the religious outrage over the fork? I'll see you in the next video with another incredible, forgotten story from history. Stay curious, everyone.